Hello and welcome to episode 29 of Ctrl Alt Defence. We're recording this on a day that President Putin arrives from Russia, so you're going to probably be listening to this and watching this on the day that he's here in Delhi or right after. But Vishnu, we've got to squeeze like an enormous amount of stuff. Russian weapons, what's on India's shopping list, what's on Putin's menu card, in this one little episode before we get into the studio to welcome Putin to India. But let's dive straight into
Shiv is a taskmaster. He's making me anchor till 11 p.m. tonight and tomorrow.
I will also be there with Vishnu just in case anyone feels bad for him. But yeah, this is very exciting.
Slave driver.
President Putin is here in India. It's an incredible time because this is a very, very important friendship that India has enjoyed for years. There's so much to look out for in terms of the agreements, in terms of the body language, the dosti between Modi and Putin, as it were. But I think we all know that the strategic and defense relationship, Vishnu, is in many ways the sweetener. It's the mood. It is what has been most visible. Vishnu and I are defense correspondents, so you can't walk 10 steps in the Indian military without bumping into something of Soviet or Russian origin, right? So I want to start with the big headline because Vishnu, you and I have been reporting on that. The biggest deal that India has signed with Russia so far has been a deal in 2018?
29. Which one?
The S-400 deal?
Yeah, it happened a few years prior to
2018
that,
is when the S-400 deal was signed. So let's get to the lead point with Putin here in Delhi, Vishnu, which is that India, having seen what the S-400 can do during Operation Sindoor, has put itself down for, a repeat order of the same thing. So 5 more regiments of the S-400. But the Russians are also pushing the S-500, which is a completely different system, which obviously you're going to tell us all about.
And the Germans are pushing the S-600, which is a Mercedes.
So ignore that. Okay.
But
first on the doubling of the S-400 deal, and then this S-500, because according to what we're hearing in reports, it's some kind of a large co-production partnership kind of thing, not a deal like the S-400 where India just buys them off the shelf from Russia.
The S-400 is a game changer.
Yeah.
We proved it during Op Sindoor. There'll be a lot of stuff coming out in a couple of months from now on the actual operators of the S-400. There may be stories which, people will actually know about how the S-400 was actually used. It was used incredibly effectively. It was our first line of defense against Pakistan in Op Sindoor. It knocked down a Pakistani AWACS. It knocked down several Pakistani aircraft. The AWACS was knocked out at a range of 314 kilometers. There was a fighter, probably a JF-17, which was knocked out at ranges of above 200 kilometers. And viewers may be getting a lot of this information for the first time. There's more. That'll come in a couple of months.
Are we allowed to talk about what you've written?
No, I haven't written anything.
Oh, okay. We're not allowed to talk about it. I promise you we'll tell you when the time is right. Yes.
Right. So it's an absolute game changer. And, there'll be, as I mentioned, lots of detail coming out on the S-400.
Yeah.
One more aspect of the S-400 we don't really talk about is that it's very mobile. So at the height of Op Sindoor, the fact that it was very mobile ensured that we could actually move the systems, despite the fact that they're absolutely huge, from place to place, get them deployed, and then reach out and hit Pakistani targets when we wanted to. This is for the preservation of those units.
Yeah.
No one really talks about that. Did you know, Shiv, that the Pakistanis were so scared about the S-400 unit and its whereabouts? You know what they did? They sent spies on the ground. There were spies on the ground, people on the ground who were arrested by the Air Force and then handed over to the police.
In 2019, I visited the Almaz-Ante facility in St. Petersburg. I don't know if you've been there, Vishnu.
No, I haven't.
Okay, I was there. This was just before deliveries began to India, in fact. Very impressive facility, incredible. And I hear from my friends there that they can't wait to get this contract processed so they can begin churning these out once again for India, because even they're looking at the way India used them and they're super impressed. But Do you want to add anything more about the S-400?
I think our viewers want to know a little bit, and it's similar, in fact. I know you want to talk about the S-500, and we will, because it has a cool name. And we like to focus on cool names. But until such time, let's talk a little bit about how the S-400 works.
Yeah.
Because there are many components. It's a huge weapon system. It's got a command and control post. It's called the 55K6E. Forget about that name. It's a Russian designation. Now, this is the command post vehicle. It's a central vehicle that fuses data coming in from an engagement radar and a tracking radar. It brings it all together, and it's in that command post that, as I understand it, the firing instructions are actually given. It actually coordinates the operation of the entire movement.
Yeah.
There's a gigantic acquisition radar. NATO refers to it as the Big Bird. It's got the designation is the 91N6E. It's a 3D search radar. It's very long range, right? It can track up to 300 targets. It then passes on the targets that it's tracked onto an engagement radar, and you love this name. It's called the Gravestone.
Oh, lovely.
That's called, and it's otherwise known as the 92N6E, which is an X-band fire control radar. It locks onto 36 targets, and it can send up to 72 concurrent missiles in that direction. So 36 targets, you can target each, as I understand it, and this is not classified stuff, so you don't have to shoot me for this. I think it can target each. It can hit each target with 2 missiles, or launch 2 missiles at each target. Then, of course, there are transporter, ejector, launcher vehicles. They carry extra missiles and the actual missiles.
The launcher vehicle is basically what you think of when you think of an S-400.
So the S-400
spits out the missiles.
The S-400 Shiv doesn't fire one type of missile, and I think this is really important when we talk about the S-400. And this is stuff you only get on this podcast. There's no other defense podcast which brings you this kind of stuff. And I think it's fascinating.
Because no other podcast has you.
Nah, I'm getting old. But so there's a missile called the 40N6 or the 40N6E. This is otherwise in India, I'm coining a name for it. It's called the AWACS killer. Right, this is the missile which has a range of 400 kilometers.
So that's what we used.
Yeah, because if we hit a target at 314 kilometers, this is the likely missile that we used. And that's not me saying it. This is what the Air Force Chief and others have actually said a lot about.
Correct.
There's the 48N6DM missile which hits targets out to 250 kilometers. There's the 48N6E2, 200 kilometers. The NM96E2, 120 kilometers. So the 120 kilometers, and then there's one called the NM96E, which hits targets to 40 kilometers.
So 5 different types of missiles.
Yeah. What does the S-500 do? It's able to hit targets out in near space.
Yeah.
So it can take on, theoretically, and I use that word very deliberately, it can take on intercontinental ballistic missiles. What makes that a game changer is that it can engage targets of missiles coming in at Mach 18.
Wow. Yeah.
Mach 18. The Pakistani CM-400, Chinese CM-400 fired by the Pakistanis, flew close to Mach 5, which would place it in the category of near hypersonic.
Yeah.
Extremely fast weapon. I mean, and it was being knocked out by our S-400s. Let there be no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But to be able to intercept incoming intercontinental ballistic missiles in near space is next level. So we already have something called the endo-atmospheric interceptor, the exo-atmospheric interceptor.
Full episode on that, by the way.
We've already done that. Those are Indian missiles. The S-400 is broadly in the category of the endo-atmospheric missile interceptor, as I understand it, one that intercepts targets within the atmosphere, but very high up, right? The periphery of space and the atmosphere. That's what it's meant to do.
So the S-500 is a very different system built by the same company in Russia. But it's more of a strategic system rather than a tactical air defense system like the S-400.
I'm a bit
much more long-range,
Shiv, about the use of the word strategic for a defensive system. I think all defensive systems are essentially tactical in my book. If there's an incoming missile coming at you, you use it. You use a particular weapon system right against a particular target. So I see all of these surface-to-air missile units as certainly tactical weapons. It's got the reason it works brilliantly or potentially brilliantly, the S-500 Prometheus, is for two factors. Number one, the missile. I would gather that the missile is one huge missile, to be able to fly way out at the ranges and the speeds that it needs to. And it has an engagement radar called the 766 multi-mode anti-ballistic missile engagement radar. Very high resolution, very high altitude for engagement. That's what defines its operations. So it's these two things, coming together that make the S-500 Prometheus, otherwise known as Prometheus in English, potentially a game changer for us. Questions will be asked about, do we really need it? I think it's as a follow-on to a system which works. It does. Nobody will really tell us about where our endo and exo-atmospheric, interceptor missiles stand in terms of systemic.
Would it complement those?
It'll have to. Everything. So again, just for the benefit of our viewers, if you look at what we have now, there's the exo and endo, atmospheric missiles, interceptor missiles,
which are part of India's ballistic missile defense system.
Which we call Sudarshan Chakra now, in a sense. Sudarshan Chakra implies more. Then, of course, there's the S-400. Then there is the MR-SAM. Then there is the Trishul. There is the Akash Prime missile. Then there's the Spider missile, the Pechora missile. There are other there are other weapon systems. MR-SAM, I mentioned it. I mentioned Spider. That's also in the sort of thing. And then there's the Summer, which is the Jugaad solution. And then there's the L-70 gun. So
all of which were used.
We have this brilliantly, and we, as we mentioned in the past, and we haven't gotten down to doing anything on it, is because it's a bit complicated and we need to focus a little bit. The sensor technology which goes with the rocketry and the missiles is where it's all at. And the integration of all of this into the Indian Air Force's IACCS hub, that's what makes this really, really interesting.
One housekeeping question, Vishnu, because like I said, the reports say that the S-500 pitch by the Russians is being pushed as a partnership, like a joint project. Now, there are projects in India which are joint projects with Russia, like the Kalashnikov project, the BrahMos, of course, most importantly. There are a few smaller ones as well, but this would be by far the biggest if it comes to fruition. Who would be the Indian partner? Is it going to be Bharat Dynamics? Is it going to be an Indian private sector partner? It may be too early to say, but I'm just saying because obviously India would be looking at these things quite seriously.
I really believe that when it comes to surface-to-air missiles, the fact that you're building it all in India, in any case, if you've got a couple of systems or one very specific system which is off the shelf, which actually makes it cheaper, not more expensive. People think that you make in India, it becomes cheaper. It doesn't work that way. It's the opposite that happens.
It's a big myth.
So just buy them off the shelf and get on with the business because, it's capability first.
Yeah.
These are limited numbers.
Yeah.
5 regiments coming up, which is what you want of the S-400, etc., etc. So, I don't know. But we have our rules and Atmanirbharta, so the Russians will have to tie up with somebody, this, that, and the other. The lead time goes up into all of that. But so there are a couple of things we are doing pegged to this visit of the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. We are replenishing our S-400 missile stocks, as I understand it, because we fired one heck of a lot of them, and quite successfully, it would appear. Apparently, the radar tracks of the S-400 striking their targets were quite clear. The S-400 system tells you if you've hit a target or not. And then, looking at the Prometheus, which is still in development, the Russians are still developing that technology. And of course, we've got 2 more regiments of, or units, if you use that word, of the S-400, which were meant to be delivered. They haven't.
Of the original deal,
And I suspect that both of them were sent to defend Russian airspace from Ukrainian attacks. But I think it's also interesting, Shiv, that the S-400 got hammered in the Russia-Ukraine war. It really did. There were at least 10-odd instances that I recall when parts of an S-400 unit And if you hit one, chances are you take out the entire unit.
Yeah.
I mean, you take out the main radar, either the engagement radar or the long-range search radar, then you've taken it out. You don't have to knock out the missiles necessarily.
Yeah.
And there are videos of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ukrainians are ruthless absolutely in releasing videos. Even the Russians lately. You see a drone heading towards a moving S-400 transporter,
First-person
erector.
view drones.
Yeah, and then boom. And that's like $1 billion.
Incredible effect.
Yeah. It's a very, very expensive system.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Coming
The
to
cat and mouse game is insane, Shiv.
if we get into the Russia-Ukraine cat and mouse game,
Oh, yeah,
the
India-Pakistan cat and mouse game was pretty
the
intense.
deployment of incredible, very, very cheap, low-cost offensive weaponry. I think that's going to be another episode all by itself.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk about Israel, Ukraine, etc. And we will. I think that's a great idea. We will get into that. But since Putin is here, I'm going to drag you back to Russian equipment. The Sukhoi Su-57. Again, the topic of one of our earlier episodes where we've talked about stealth aircraft and India's crisis vis-a-vis China and Pakistan. But Vishnu, the Su-57, which was until a few months ago, a bit of kite flying and, some public relations from the Russian government, appears to have solidified into a very serious conversation. At least that's my understanding. From the Russian side, certainly. We've discussed threadbare in previous episodes that India doesn't have much of a choice when it comes to what it wants to do if it chooses to go down the road of getting such aircraft. How serious is Putin about this? Because this again is being pushed as hey, you build the Su-30 MKI, you've done it for years, plug this in as well.
I don't know if India wants this aircraft at all.
Yeah.
It's not stealthy in the class of even the F-35.
Right.
It's certainly not stealthy in the class of some of the Chinese J-20, for example, or even the J-35 potentially would be more stealthy. They can make the Su-57 more stealthy by reshaping the engine nacelles, to give it a greater element of stealth in its rear profile. But it's all about weapons. It's all about the integration of weapon systems, of radars, of sensors, the ability to deflect threats. That's where the Rafale is the gold standard. It remains that Spectra suite that it has on board, the ability to deflect missiles, to have a really world-class operational DIRCM, directed infrared countermeasure system, integrated with the radar, integrated with its infrared search and tracking system, to have a towed decoy system.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think stealth fighters necessarily operate towed decoy systems because it destroys stealth, technically. Whether the Russian platform offers all of that is something you need to look at. Because without that, the only good thing that the Su-57 has is the R-37 missile.
Yeah.
It's the longest range air-to-air missile that they have presently.
Yeah.
And it fits into its base. It's got large base. It's the performance of the aircraft is superb. That's not the issue over here. It's about weapon systems integration. It's about electronic integration
And stealth.
And its defensive suite, which is critical. We keep talking about jammers, but jammers are one part of a system which protects the aircraft from incoming air-to-air missiles and surface-to-air missiles. How developed is that entire package? Now, how many Indian pilots have flown the Su-57, Shiv?
I have no idea.
Zero.
Right.
Yeah. So we aren't there as yet. So anybody who says that Putin is over here, he's walking away with Su-57, it ain't happening.
But you're right. I completely agree. And I personally would be quite not very pleased if India went down that route, honestly. And we've discussed this in a previous episode. So if you want to know my view about the Su-57, you can see it there. But I think the reason why, and this needs to be said, Vishnu, the reason why the Russians are serious about this and not just like sort of throwing their hat into the ring kind of thing like they were with the previous fighter contest. In this case, they're very serious about it because A, India does operate a hell of a lot of Russian fighters, still does. B, Russia does not have an edge in any form in the existing fighter contest. That's likely to go to the French with the Rafales. it's unlikely that India is ever going to be interested in any more aircraft from Russia, from the current sort of flock. And the Su-57 is like the only thing that they have out there in the market that competes against the F-35. When I say competes, of course, I use that word advisedly. And therefore, they see a real chance to actually push this. They see the Chinese J-35. They see what's happening with Pakistan as a kind of incentive to maybe goad India into a decision.
Sukhoi needs to get its act together. Sukhoi has been incredibly successful. They've run roughshod over MiG.
Yeah.
For example, after the MiG-29/MiG-35/MiG-29K, the Russians and the sales of the MiG have just sort of disappeared. I mean, MiG was a global leader at one stage from Russia and then, of course, the Soviet Union earlier on. It's sort of disappeared.
MiG has a single engine stealth platform called
which nobody has bought. Yeah, I know. So that's what they're trying to sort of. It's already outdated.
Got no money.
It's just this thing. And Sukhoi has done insanely well. I mean, whether it's the J-15, the J-16, which is the Chinese Sukhoi 30s, India's Sukhoi 30 MKI, Su-30 MKI is operated by so many air forces around the world. Malaysia operates it. It's an incredible platform. It's huge. It has the ability to carry a great deal. It carries our BrahMos missile. It's been upgraded exactly the way we want it. Very, very versatile. Certainly holds its own in combat. It's going to be upgraded with our own radar, an AESA radar. So it has a lot of potential. The only real drawback, of course, is that it is huge. So it has a radar. It's the most unstealthy fighter that you'll find. Anyway, so be that as it may, it's a great aircraft. So I think the point I was trying to make is that Sukhoi needs to get its act together, which is why the Russians are pitching the Su-57 in as hard as they are, because they need to have a real future for the company. The Russians themselves have bought very few Su-57s.
Yeah.
Now that may reflect the state of the Russian economy, but if they want us to buy a lot, then we have to be convinced we are doing the right thing. There is a certain school of thought among those I speak to, who are in the Air Force, have been in the Air Force, that, the Rafale is just fine. Why get into a potentially suboptimal platform? Potentially.
And sink a huge amount of money into that.
Of course, potentially sinking in as much, if not more money into the Rafale.
Correct.
Look, this isn't cheap business. I mean, it's all insanely expensive. But again, I think ultimately a call needs to be made not on geopolitical pressures, but it's your money and my money, Shiv, and everybody's money over here. It has to be on something which offers you the capability that you seek.
Yeah. No, and in a previous episode where Vishnu and I talked about India's stealth jet crisis, there's a very interesting segment, and I urge you to go and watch that episode after this one, where Vishnu and I talk about how maybe not going in for a stealth fighter is also an option for India. Wait it out till the AMCA, in whatever form it finally emerges in a decade from now, and invest in other things like the S-400, the S-500 and other, systems that kind of denature and defang this stealth disparity in some ways. So I'll leave it for that episode. But Vishnu, okay, we've talked about, yes, thank you. We've talked about with the air defense systems. We've talked about the aircraft. Now let's come to the submarine. Perplexing report in Bloomberg that talks about how India and Russia have finalized a $2 billion deal for a nuclear submarine, which has been in the works for a while. I remember this deal being signed. You reported it back in 2019. We all
reported it 2019. It's an important story in the Bloomberg, but I think the context needs to be put, correct and on record.
There have been delays in that, though.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a 2019 deal. India, of course, ceased operating the Akula class submarine when Chakra 2. Yeah. It was Chakra 2, right? Yeah. The last one was returned to Russia. It didn't sail under the water. It sailed on the surface, which reflects the condition it was in when it went back. And that was the last time she sailed. To see an Akula 2 in the Malacca Straits, cruising past would have had people thinking, what on earth is that doing there? But that's the way we actually sent her back. We used her extensively, including in operations which you and I should write a book on. But somewhere in the South China Seas, or I'm just talking now. It may not have been that. Right. It may have, but it may not have been as well. Yeah. But that's gone, and so you needed another submarine. Now, we are building our own fast attack nuclear submarines, but those are still quite a few years away from being ready. You know, when we went to Hazira to do our episode, right, on the Zorawar tank?
Yeah. How far were we from the
We were right there, I
fabrication
think.
facility?
I think we were right there. It's like, over there somewhere.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, though? That's where... Yeah. I don't know if it was the one fabricating the fast attack boats or the follow-on boomers.
Yeah, probably both.
Probably both. Yeah. So anyway, so we need another fast attack boat. So the Akula we've got a lot of experience in. This is going to be an Akula 3. The Russians have had lots of Akulas lying over there. They haven't been able to complete them. This would be either one which is incomplete or a Russian. And only Sandeep Unnithan knows which one by the name of the boat. Or one which is heavily refurbished to meet a certain requirement. And so that boat comes into service in 2 years from now. It'll be on lease for at least 10 years. It's a multi-billion-dollar deal. We need at least one of those to defend the Arihant, Arighat, Aridaman, or the S-4 Plus or the S-5 when they come online. These are India's made-in-India ballistic missile submarines.
Yeah. No, and we're recording this episode on Navy Day. And
that's right.
As Vishnu reported from the Navy Chief's press conference this week, that the third nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine, Aridaman, as Vishnu reported, will be entering service very, very shortly. It's already in sea trials. It's doing all sorts of things as well. So important to take a note of that. So the INS Chakra 3, I'm guessing it's going to be called Chakra 3, is potentially entering service 2 years from now, 2027.
Yeah, it should be ready. We've had our people over there in Russia, I'm pretty sure, looking into the boat and its condition and what they want. There
are always Indian teams in Russia waiting for stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll get that boat sooner than later. So that's important. Here's the bit that we don't really talk about. Our Arihant class is to a Russian design, or let us just say design assistance. The reactor is Indian. In fact, photographs of that have been publicly released in Kalpakkam and the like. But there's certainly been Russian assistance.
Yeah.
That's why the partnership with Russia is gold standard.
Yeah.
You go to America and say, we want to buy some arms of yours. And they'll turn around and say, oh, absolutely. We'll give you the best rate. And this is the official rate. It's a government-to-government deal. And it'll come off, these are the legal things. And then you say, no, we'd like one of your Virginia-class boats. In fact, we'll take 3 of them. And you see what their response is to that.
Yeah.
Or if you were to tell them, okay, we won't buy it from you, just help us build it in the Hazira and Vizag.
Yeah.
And if you please, and we'll pay you top dollar for that. They say, excuse me, there's some things which we do not do. So who does nuclear submarines and say, okay, fine, we'll help you design-wise with nuclear submarines. It's only Russia.
Yeah.
We, of course, don't want to talk about this.
Yeah. No, you're right. There was a point of time.
This is the basis, Shiv, of our nuclear defense, is our ballistic missile submarines. The initial design and development was done along with the Russians. It's a widely known thing. We've, of course, progressed. We've mastered a lot of the technology. We are really moving forward with a lot of that. But that basic technology, a large part of it in design and development was Russian.
Yeah. No, there was a point of time, I remember it, when landing in Visakhapatnam, you'd see scores of Russians in the airport, either arriving or leaving. Lots of that, that kind of thing. You don't see that anymore, which I'm guessing means exactly what you're saying. The point is that the Russians, the role of the Russians in India's nuclear submarine program cannot go unacknowledged. There's no question about it. We must acknowledge it. It's well known as well, and it was an important stepping stone to where India is right now, with the INS Aridaman, entering service very soon. The attack boats that are being built by L&T,
S-5 class,
the S-5, the S-5 boomers, and then the attack submarines
correct.
Are all largely Indian, and Indian teams have steered them by and large without Russian help, which is an incredible feat. So I think it's important to acknowledge that this relationship between India and Russia goes far, far, far deeper than a couple of S-400 systems being bought off the shelf. But okay, so we've done the 3 elements, Vishnu. We've talked about the land systems, we've talked about the aircraft, we've talked about the submarines. Ships, the last of the Russian ships being delivered to India have arrived.
I was in Karwar recently. I was hoping to see the Tamal or the Tuhin, I think. I forget which.
Yes. The last 2 of the advanced Talwar class.
No, they weren't there.
Yeah.
They were probably out sailing. Beautiful warships, Krivak class.
Yes.
Some of the most advanced variant of the Krivak class, which of course has done yeoman service in the Soviet and then Russian Navy for decades, but to an older design. These are completely upgraded, unbelievable ships. But, we're building a few in India.
Yeah.
Right, and
and we snapped them up. I remember visiting the Yantar shipyard.
You went there.
Kaliningrad in 2018 or 2019. It must be 2019, where the two hulls were just sitting there.
And we said
India was in
we'll
the process of saying, yes, please, by all means, we love the advanced Talwar class. So please.
Which is why you sometimes wonder, on a separate note, if there were a couple of white-tailed C-17s lying around somewhere.
That's a painful story.
We bought the last one. There was one available. If I managed. So the C-17 is a gigantic transport the Indian Air Force operates. It bedrocks our strategic transport fleet. We wanted more of them, but then Boeing has shut the line down.
We just took too long, which is why our fleet has 11.
So we took too long. We went from MR. So we wanted the Mirage 2000. It took too long. The Russians said, sorry, you aren't getting that.
Yeah.
Pay much more for the Rafale.
Yeah.
And we ended up with just 36, right?
Yeah.
We wanted the C-17. The Americans said, sure, buy as many as you want.
Yeah.
We sat over there. We could buy only 10. And then one we somehow managed to get, I think, as an 11th one, which was the very last one that was sold. And then shut the line down.
Yeah. Incredible. Are we missing anything, Vishnu? I mean, there are.
Well, we're talking about the Car 226 light utility helicopter.
That collapsed. That didn't happen.
Yeah, that was supposed to be made in India, but then you've got our own light utility helicopter, which HAL is
good
has got done, and it should work just fine.
But you're right. There are other things where India is talking to Russia to top up certain things. I do know that we've been in talks to get more Mi-17 helicopters. Those have been incredible workhorses for the Indian military.
Just the most, no one talks about them because they are the most distinctly unsexy military vehicles that exist. But man, you wouldn't be fighting wars, you wouldn't be sustaining anything without the Mi-17.
Yeah. The Mi-17s are everywhere. You're right. They're unsexy. They're visible everywhere, so everyone takes them for granted.
Yeah.
But those have been perhaps the most meaningful things we've gotten from the Russians. And I'm actually surprised that given the numbers we've operated, it never occurred to the system to maybe, for HAL to, instead of reinvent the wheel and get into that whole IMRH. And I'm going to be slaughtered for this online, I know that.
Yeah.
But to have some kind of an HAL Russian partnership to improve and soup up the Mi-17. It's a slightly smaller helicopter compared to what HAL is aiming at, but nevertheless you get the sentiment of what I'm saying. But that again is for an entirely new episode. But you were, just as a last point, Vishnu, you were talking about some of the other more specialized helicopters that India is looking to get more of, the Kamovs and the naval Kamovs and stuff.
So the Russians are now having to bid on that, and they're competing with HAL. And I think it's a straightforward choice. It has to be capability first.
Yeah.
But I think there's been a lot of progress in India's, light India building helicopters in the light utility LUH, which is what HAL has done. A high altitude performance of that has been absolutely incredible. So that's where we pretty much are with India and Russia in terms of the frontline weapon systems.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much
So you're going to be hearing this, listening to this episode and watching this episode either when President Putin is still here or just after he's left. Usually at these summits, and Vishnu and I have covered many of them both here and in Russia, large defense deals are not announced. Those are usually taken care of by separate delegations. We do know that India's Defense Minister Rajnath Singh met with his counterpart as well before the Russian president arrived. So the crossing of the T's and the dotting of the I's, as it were, of all these agreements happen separately by very detailed negotiations and delegations. And then if there is some big takeaway, then it's usually announced by the two leaders. So we'll have to see what that is. We'll have an update on it once the president leaves as well. But this has been fun. And I can tell you, Vishnu, and I know you think this too, we haven't even scratched the surface of Russian equipment in the Indian arsenal. It's just incredible. We haven't even gotten into the tanks. We haven't even gotten into
guns,
the tanks, and so much else. Weapons, the Kalashnikov rifles that are being built in Amethi in Uttar Pradesh, which have started delivery to the Indian Armed Forces. There are so many things, big and small, that hide from your gaze because we are focused on the big, meaty, high-value deals, which we've, of course, covered on this episode. So, Vishnu, we'll do a part 2.
Yeah.
Once this visit winds up, and so much more to talk about as well. As always, please leave us your comments. We read everything. We take your suggestions extremely seriously. As you've seen from our playlist, we're often choosing to prioritize episodes that many of you want us to do instead of what we've already planned. That's how important it is to hear from you. So keep it coming. Thanks very much, as always, for being with us. See you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.